Hey everybody, this is Doug Garsman and we're back with another video here. So we're going to do a quick news update as I'm still pretty much behind on my video editing. I've got 7 videos that still need to be edited. I just got to today going through the entire archive I had and looking at what videos we're going to upload and which ones are not. So we've got the 7 here right now. I do need to heavily edit a few of these because, like, for example, this one right here, I got interrupted almost every 6 minutes into the video. I wanted to scrap the video, but we made good progress in the video, and this is part of the whole set. So I think this whole entire set right here is us working on the sheet metal mod, and then there's like a couple tank dev videos in here as well. I still do have some Let's Play videos I haven't finished editing because I want to finish the 3rd one in the set of this one, so this is the reason why these haven't been uploaded, and you haven't seen these since basically last month. We'll get back into that one eventually, as me and Grogger do want to get back into making the Let's Plays and working on those. Right now we're trolling some people around with Space Engineers, which I'm trying to capture some video of, but we just spent 4 hours dismantling ships in the last video, so that didn't happen, of course. Anyways, when it comes to new stuff, so for the tank game progress has been made. I haven't uploaded a video for it in a while. The videos that are uploaded on there are kind of old. Like this one right here was recorded actually 20 days ago, I think. And it took a while to get edited and uploaded and everything for that one. What I will say though is a lot of the videos we do have uploaded here are kind of obsolete at this point when it comes to the tank game. The custom brush, for example, is no longer used. We completely, utterly ditched the Unity tile map system. The reason this happened is the maps were getting way too big to be stored on Git, and the Unity program was becoming slower and slower and slower the bigger the maps got. So for some of our maps, in particular, we had a map that was like 1,500 by 1,500 that was made by Grogger. Let me go find it here real quick. That would be in the tank folder. I did keep a copy of this just to kind of prove a point. This map ended up being 225 megabytes for a map that was, of course, 1,000 by 500 by 1,000 by 500. The map is huge, and I'm really unhappy with how Unity goes about saving their maps and everything. These really should be saved as arrays, and I'll show you another program that actually does save these as arrays that are much nicer. But here, for example, it takes 9 lines of text in this file to store a single tile. So you have to imagine if we actually had, this map wasn't a full 1,500, but it was pretty close. So if we had that much, that's how many tiles we theoretically could have in this map if we completely filled that in. And that is just one layer of tiles. Now, this map that we did have had multiple layers on it, had multiple interlapping pieces and everything else, and you can see how big this file got to be just with a text file alone. You're looking at pretty much 9 million lines of text just to get that map going. The reason why this is stored in text is that we are using Git to actually upload things, so we don't store it in the binary format. The binary format, from what I've heard, is a little bit smaller, but it wouldn't have made a difference because that is a lot of information to be storing everything else in there. So we ended up having to abandon the tile map system, which means we had to redo our maps. Of course, good thing when we did do redo our maps, we got to get rid of a lot of the crappy tiles and stuff we had. Our tiles haven't improved a huge amount, but we're at least making progress. Let's go over here. So for what we ended up switching to, we ended up switching to what's called Tile 2D. So if I actually click About here, so this is called Tile Map Editor. You can actually go onto mapeditor.org to actually get this thing. It's free to use. It's really good. They actually show quite a few different examples of stuff you can use with it, and you can do isometric maps with it. You can do 2D maps with it. I have seen examples of people taking this program and actually building out 3D maps by simply doing the 2D map system and then using external programs to actually generate stuff. I do have examples, I believe, or these are just sponsors on here. I thought they had an example of games that actually were made with this, but I don't see them on here. You probably could find some on itch.io. I've seen quite a few people who have done tutorials actually note that they do use the software, and of course we're going to be using the software now as well because it is really easy to use. The only problem is, of course, our tiles are not the greatest. This is the reason why this map kind of looks kind of meh. But at least we can make maps in here. We can do layers and everything else in here. Let me open up a map that's just a little bit smoother. So let me go ahead and close this one down. And I'm going to discard change. I haven't changed anything in that one. But we do have quite a few maps now done. So we've got our map 3. So this it still needs to be textured. This one does. So it looks a little weird. We've got that one done. We've got map 4 done, which previously did not look good. So map 4 version now looks a little nicer. We've now got map 5, which this is meant to be a lava. It was what the green stuff is meant to be, but I kind of like the look of it, so we're actually going to keep the green because it gives that nice, sickly, kind of creepy look to it. So we actually are end up going to go with green lava throughout most of the levels now, which is good for us so we don't have to make another lava texture. And of course we now have map 6, which is made, but all these maps that I have shown do need to have objects added to them, they need detail added to them, they have textures that need to be worked on. So right now these are just rough maps that have just been made to kind of get the general concept across, so that when we import them in the game, we know what we're kind of doing and everything else. But we've got those. Now what I wanted to show with these is these are also text files. So look at this one. So the biggest one I have right now is map 1, which is 1,500 wide. So it's about half the size of the tile map that Unity had. And you see that this thing is only 16 megabytes for half the size. This thing has just as many layers as the previous one, if not more. And how this one is stored is they store an array. Now, of course, this could use a bit of work as well. They could actually implement some techniques to reduce the amount of data being stored in here, but it's not that big of a deal for 16 megabytes. The only complaint I really have with the map size that ends up on here is that when I actually do go to export these maps, it does take me about 30 minutes to export the tile map. I actually am thinking about redoing how I do these levels. So right now we use tile layers for a little bit of everything in this level. So we do them for the walls, we do them for this little hole thing here, which I clearly have to get better textures for. But what I'm thinking is I might come back through here and get rid of the walls off this and replace these with actual objects, and the same for the rocks and stuff. So we got some rocks out here that are kind of, they could be objects and they would look so much nicer as objects. You can see, by the way, what I was talking about with how I didn't really make any change on this level. The only thing I did is turned off the collision layers. Collision layers give you that weird look is because they actually tint over the layer to tell me where the colliders are. They're auto-generated too, which is really cool about this. So say, for example, I go over here and I hit Control A and delete that layer. So I got rid of my collision layer. I can actually come up here and hit Auto Map, and it will generate all my colliders for me, which is really, really cool feature. I'll have to make a tutorial on that at some point. Basically, it uses a whole bunch of rule tiles just to define what colliders and how they work. That's the reason why we have even so many layers. But getting that aside, because we switched over to that, the actual game logic itself has seen a lot of work. I have started implementing game save and load functionality, so we do have a data handler now that actually does handle all of our save and load. The saving and loading does work. It is really, really cool. Let me actually find my bookmark. So this actually does save to local load map data, and you can actually now see the name of the game. I'm going with Artlex Rising for the moment. I may change this before release, but it works for the moment. So we do save. We do have a save file. We can now save the loadouts of tanks, so I'll get into this in a minute where we'll talk about that. And we, of course, save the player name. I am going to be saving more data in here, although not a lot of stuff is going to go in here in terms of other things, because there is going to be a separate file for settings. This will be per save is how this will be, so I'm right now thinking 3 save slots at the moment. The only reason I'm going to limit to 3 save slots is because I don't want to go through all the GUI work to add a ton of stuff in here, which we'll do later probably. So what we'll do is we'll start with 3 save slots, and then if this game continues to develop, we'll look into actually adding more save slots and everything else for that, and getting it set up so you can have as many saves as you want and everything else. So that works. It does saving and loading, so I have tested both of these. These work perfectly fine. We now have an item data handler that tracks all of our different weapons and stuff and different tanks. Does track the default tank per level. This is made per level as well, though it will be duplicated over all the missions. All the missions will have the same tank access and weapon set, but there will be challenge maps and there will be horde maps that may be limited on what vehicles you can get your access to. What vehicle variants you'll get access to, because we're going to have vehicle variants. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up having 5 vehicles for release. But those 5 vehicles may each have like 6 subvariants too. And the subvariants will be really, really simple. We'll just change the loadouts and a little bit of the visuals of what the vehicle looks like. So for example, the Lancer tank, which let me hit play and just show off the Lancer tank for those who haven't been following along and seeing all the development on this game. So we got the Lancer tank, which has 2 twin machine guns on the left and 4 quad cannons on the right. Keep in mind, this is not a realistic game, so don't point out this would never work. It's not meant to work. It's just a video game. So we've got the machine gun. We've got the cannon. I have actually worked on the effects of this. I also have messed with the camera as well. So we got the camera. Does have some post-processing done on it to make it look a little warmer. I wanted the level to look a little bit nicer. I'm not entirely sure I'm going to keep this because, of course, it does change the visuals quite a bit. It does make the tank look a little bit purplish, which is not intentional. It's meant to be blue. It does quite a few other things that I'm going to have to mess around with and get working and everything else. But we've got the Lancer tank. So the Lancer tank does actually have all that stuff set up and everything like that. We can do loadouts now. Loadouts are a bit complicated to get set up, but it works. So for the moment, what you basically are seeing though is the original tank. The original tank just kind of exists. It has a hull, a turret, it has everything set up on it, and if we actually drag this into the level, and I actually show this to you. So how this guy works is that it has, of course, some data structure on here, has hull, everything else. It has a turret. On the turret, it actually has our cannons and machine guns set up. The weapon scripts actually handle everything else. You got the audio, mouse handlers, all that stuff, which works just fine. The problem with this is that we can't actually do loadouts and stuff from that vehicle easily. Now, we could make scripts for it, we could do everything else, but what ended up happening is we tried to keep the original prefabs and make them work, is that when we went to go make the next tank and so on and so on, we would have to make a new prefab, had to get everything set up on it. So what we're going to end up actually doing is we're going to end up using a tank generated object, which will have basic data on it, and then we're going to use our data right here, which we're working on, to actually generate the tank. So this data object defines what the Lancer tank is. It defines the save ID, which we need a save ID in order to save and load the game. It defines the name that you're going to see in game. We're only going to be doing English for the first version of the game. I don't know how we're going to do translations later. We'll get to it when we get to it. We'll have a description, which I haven't actually had a description. This is the default text that pops up in there. I'll show how this kind of works in a second. We have then, it defines a hull and a turret. So each tank is only going to have a single hull and a single turret, even though variants will have changes to the turrets and stuff. We're treating each variant as individual tank objects, so what you'll have is you'll have a Lancer tank M1, so on and so on. Even if everything uses the same hull, we're going to treat the object as a separate thing. We then have the hull, which is another data structure object, and the cool thing about doing these data structure objects, there's only ever going to be one of these instances in memory at a time, so it's going to reduce our memory footprint, which is going to be really cool. It's not going to be too big of a deal when it comes to the player tank. We are going to, however, be recycling this stuff on the AIs, which will make a much bigger deal. So say you have 100 AIs in a level, we may be shaving off a couple megabytes worth of RAM off doing so. Plus, it just makes our life easier when it comes to development. So you got this, prefabs, a whole bunch of settings. The turret's the same way, so we got the turret. Turret defines weapon groups, defines all the rotation speed. We can limit rotation, so if we do decide to make a tank destroyer later, we have that functionality that was already built into the scripts as it was. It just has never been enabled because we only really use that for the sentry guns and stuff and a few other things. It's not entirely useful. I have yet to make a prefab for this, but you can also see we still have the default stuff in here. The name at least has been made. How the weapon groups work is, of course, we have two weapon group objects. The weapon groups define the slots that are available here, so this does work kind of like the MechWarrior games and a few other games that do have these loadout systems. You have slots inside the body part, and those slots have a limited what you can stick in them. In this case, we are going by size-based slots rather than type-based slots like MechWarrior does. So in this case, the two left slots are small slots, and then on here, these are medium slots. We also, of course, have the predefined loadouts here, so we have 4 stump cannons in here and 2 blasters in here. These are going to act as our light machine guns. We may end up actually adding ballistic-based weapons in here that are more conventional rather than just doing what we are doing, which is kind of more sci-fi weapons. But we're going to do the sci-fi weapons now just because they sound a little nicer, and the visuals we already have in place for things that actually do play that a lot better. But the slots over here are defined. These define, of course, the size of the slot, like I said. It defines the key index, and of course we have some offset and stuff, which I don't think the offset is going to be used for the actual slot. And the reason for this is I think I'm going to work on defining a little bit better logic for how these are made. I still may toy with this. I haven't got to that point yet, but we're getting there and everything else. So you got all those different slots in here. Each slot, it looks like it's a lot of repetitive work by making a ton of slots, but if we end up using these offset and stuff, it will become useful and everything else. So that gets all that out of the way when it comes to the component system. And I did say I was going to show how these work. So these do work by doing what is called like a scriptable object, is what they're called. So if I go into my scripts here, so we do have these, and these are just really simple scripts. So you have a scriptable object, you just create this little menu thing for it, you extend scriptable objects. The menu thing just gives you access to it, so you can actually, if I come over here and hit right click, create, I can hit create, content, tank, and I can make my tank parts and stuff like that. So we have basically one of these for everything we need, of course, through here. We've also got data objects to store the loadout, which is the save object, and the tank data, which is the generated version of the loadout inside memory. So you've got all that done. That all saves, loads, and works, which is really, really cool. I was thinking that was going to take weeks to do, but it's actually done now. But anyways, getting all this aside, because we didn't just want to talk about the tank gaming here, I also want to talk about the development for the mods and everything. So even though I won't be personally working on a lot of the mods for this month, I'll be focusing on the tank game, getting that released so we can get financially stable and make sure that I have money going forward to pay for things so I can continue making mods for you guys for free. Other people still will be working on the mods. So everybody who's part of the organization will be making stuff and be focusing on working on stuff. Theoretically, Henneman might be starting on a track mod. We're still working on getting that planned out and everything else. We did pick up a new person for the team, so let me get my chat over here and actually get over here. So we do have, if I can scroll up, I'll get to some of these models here in a second for Morton. So we have GHXX who joined the team. He will be working primarily on ICM Classic, which is really great because that mod has not been seeing a lot of work for me. I've been just coming through every so often, bug fixing, patching, polishing a little bit. He's going to be helping do a lot more of the polish, and he's going to be helping do some more implementation and stuff for it. So what he's working on right now is he's doing the smoke trails, and he's also going to be working on the chunk loading to some extent, although I may have to help him with chunk loading as he doesn't seem to fully grasp it just yet of how it's going to be implemented. We are talking back and forth. I am encouraging him to work on it, as I am really happy to see somebody who's enthusiastic to work on the mod because he's really excited by it and everything else. So we'll be working on that, hopefully getting that stuff up. We do have the code actually up on the GitHub. It is on a separate branch, as I do need to go test it and work on it and get everything else going for that. Morton has been working on stuff, so Morton is continuously working on models and texture sports now, so he's back. He disappeared for a while, but he's getting back to working on a lot of models. We've got some sieves and stuff. If we actually scroll up, there's tons of other models he's been working on, so some turbines here, conveyor belts, more turbines. He's basically going through and making all the models we were missing for assembly line. Any models we currently are using for assembly line, he's remaking to look nicer. I'm not 100% about the texture, but it does look nicer. Redoing a lot of the atomic science machines, getting those all cleaned up and looking nice. He's of course making textures for everything, so we've got the sheet metal mod and stuff right here, which will be released here eventually. We've got some videos as well that are going to be uploaded for that. So working on all this stuff, so we got work being made, but it is being a little bit slower. It will be slower for the rest of this month due to me not being able to work on it. Anyways, that's a quick news update, and I'll see you guys later with more videos and updates. Hopefully I'll get all the videos I have caught up and uploaded, and I would say we'd be more consistent with the video uploads, but it's probably not going to be consistent for the rest of the month. Same with the Twitter updates and everything else.